back to the R.D.C. show. Derek?
Chris?
Richard?
Yeah, we're just going to go right off and hit some hot topics.
Let's tell them the date. We should do that.
Oh, it is? Yeah, all right. Yeah, today is July 13th, 2013. Well, we're going to hit the hot topics that's going on, and Trayvon Martin is still one of the hot topic current events going on right now, and I guess that's what we're going to talk about.
Well, if you saw last week, the end of last week's show, From the Hip, the very end of it was a heated conversation over Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman. George Zimmerman's trial for murdering Trayvon Martin. If you watched what I said last week, I've changed my view a little bit. I listened to the all 911 stuff, and I paid attention to the case. And last week I had said that they both were basically at fault, and that I thought Trayvon, could be found just as guilty because he was on top beating his head in. But after hearing George Zimmerman's 911 call, the whole thing, I don't think I can say that. George Zimmerman predetermined what he thought of that kid when he walked by his window the first time. He knew what he was going to do when he came back by. Now, I don't know that he knew he was going to kill him, but he knew he was going to mess with this kid. And if he caught that kid doing anything, he was going to stop him.
Did we hear them words in correct content, do you think?
What's that?
Them words that he said about...
Well, we don't know what he said, but he
it.
did say they all get away with it. That
right.
part you can hear. The other part they bleep out.
But did we hear it in correct content? I mean, people love to chop things up. People can do that, and people are really good at doing that.
Right, I see what you're saying. Because they did that to him the first time.
Yep, they sure did.
Yeah.
They sure did.
But this this wasn't the news version. This was the 911
straight up
version.
Well, I understand
that they played in the courtroom. So
I
this wasn't
understand
anything
that.
that came from the news feed.
But
now,
they always have them dots before and after the saying, so that's not the direct sentence. It's just a part of the sentence.
But regardless, he said those blanks always get away with it.
Right.
At some point in this conversation, he would have said that. The meffing kids always get away with it.
Yeah, I guess that you can't really put that in any other content.
Even if they cut that out and tried to splice it on him, he said that for a reason.
Yeah.
And he was predetermined when he saw that kid walking wearing a hoodie, going to get, I think you said Skittles and iced tea.
Yeah.
He predetermined that kid was guilty. Now, I don't know if he intended on murdering him. And as Christopher said last week, sat there polishing his gun up, staring at him. I'm going to get him. I'm going to get him. I don't know if he did all that, but he made up his mind about who that kid was because of the color of his skin and what he was wearing. And that is wrong.
Do you think you could find do you guys know what kind of gun was used in the...
I'm sure he pulled up. I'm not sure.
That would tell you a lot because, excuse me, there's certain guns that are very expensive and usually only gun aficionados will have one. And if Mr. Zimmerman had a CCW or it's a Florida equivalent, you have to show that you're proficient with using that gun before you can get one. So you have to shoot and demonstrate that you have some degree of accuracy with it. If he had a CCW and it was similar to the CCW laws here in Michigan, then Mr. Zimmerman would have been in direct violation of the rules of having a CCW because he pursued the person, period. Now, I've listened to Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck, Laura Ingraham, as long as I can tolerate it, which I don't ever listen to the whole show, just a little bit, go back and forth. Sometimes I'm laughing, most of the time I'm pissed off at what I hear because it's so ridiculous. Their argument basically centered around the fact that regardless of what happened prior to the incident where the fight began, once the fight began, nothing else mattered. And I would have to strongly disagree. The actions of George Zimmerman mattered. I mean, if you could not take somebody's actions before the crime began, then how could you ever convict anybody on premeditation of anything? Because, right. I mean, and I would argue that, you could apply murder one charges to George Zimmerman, in my opinion. it was premeditation from the minute he decided to pursue him. That was premeditation right there. He was aware that he had the gun. He had intent to use it for certain. And he tracked that kid down and shot him like a dog. And that's my opinion. So the argument of self-defense is totally out the window. And George Zimmerman gave up the right for self-defense the millisecond he headed off towards that kid. The very second he left towards that kid, he gave up self-defense. Because self-defense is fight or flight. You are cornered. It's the last option available to you. George Zimmerman was being trained at...
at that point in time...
He was being trained in mixed martial arts.
At
He had
that
an
point in
instructor.
time...
He knew how to fight. He knew how to handle himself. But what did he choose to do? Did he try to fight that kid at all? He decided he was going to kill him. That's why he left the house with a gun.
Right. Well, that's why he was getting his ass whooped, because the kid was defending himself.
Is not going down on your back a defensive move in MMA? Is that not a defensive stance? Do they not sometimes go down on their back in a defensive?
Yeah, if they're good on the ground, I guess.
Okay.
But I don't think that's what happened. I think George Zimmerman...
You cannot blame that kid for doing what he did because he was being pursued. Not only on foot, but by car. And you're being threatening. You want to talk about the right to defend yourself? What about Trayvon's right to defend his life?
That's what I just said. He was the one who had the right to defend himself.
Zimmerman was the aggressor from the start.
Started following him.
So, in this little thing, they're saying here that on February 2nd, 3 weeks prior, on February 2nd, 2012, Zimmerman called police to report a young man peering in windows at one of the homes there in the community. And the cops told him to wait and wait for their arrival, and the dude fled. And then a few days later, two other men got into a residence and stole a laptop and some jewelry. And then it looks like he identified the man somehow. Zimmerman did, and the dude got arrested.
Yeah, see, there's been a lot of burglaries.
And see, he's got a weapon because there was a loose pit bull in the neighborhood, and animal service officer advised Zimmerman to get a gun. So, we got some other things going on here too. He's not just sitting there.
You have a responsibility when you have a gun and you are armed, you have a certain responsibility to avoid conflict at all, in any way, shape, or form. Even if you are armed, your first response is supposed to be to flee. You're never supposed to use a gun. You tell me George Zimmerman couldn't have got that kid off him long enough to run?
And Martin didn't flee either?
Why?
Martin didn't flee
either.
Well, and one more thing.
Martin didn't flee either.
He did. He ran away.
Look, George Zimmerman run away.
George Zimmerman says it on the 911. He's running away.
Yeah, he did. The kid did run from him.
He ran from him.
That's why he got in the car. Zimmerman got in his car and chased him down. The lady tells him, when he gets in the car, she tells him, "Are you following him?" He's like, "Yeah." She goes, "Do not pursue."
He won't give his destination.
Yeah, I heard that.
He had got in the car.
He won't give his...
and he won't tell her where. She keeps asking, "Where you at? Where you at?" And he won't say.
He said, "I'll just tell the cops to call me, and I'll tell him where he's at."
Maybe he was driving around just trying to keep
an
eye on the guy, see where he was so he could tell the cops.
One thing I'd like to say about all you gun owners who think that this is a threat to your ownership of a gun, it's George Zimmerman's actions that are threatening your ability to have a gun. It's his stupid fucking action that's threatening you, not what Trayvon did. You want to be afraid of the anti-gun people, blame George Zimmerman for it. Period. He's threatening my gun rights.
He was not a cop. He was not a police officer. He had no right to go out of the house. I know last week I said, well, people walk around all the time with guns, and they do. But I wasn't thinking about it in the fact that when people are walking around with the guns, like if you go to the grocery store and you got your gun on you, that's different. It's not... You were right, Christopher. When I sat over this long weekend and looked at it, it's not the same as what I was trying to say, because I was saying people are always walking around with guns in their pockets. Yeah. But he wasn't... You were right. He wasn't walking around with it. He saw the kid, he picked it up, and he went after him. And that, when you think about it, what if that was your kid? I got a kid. And, my heart goes out to his family. That was a 17-year-old boy whose life was lost when he went to get Skittles and iced tea, just because he looked like some hooligans that had been breaking in the house before.
Hey,
That was racial profiling.
I never claimed that Trayvon Martin was an angel and a good kid and only did good things. He probably misbehaved the way all teenagers of every race do.
What teenagers do.
Yes, just behave badly. We all did. You know, I'm not claiming that. And maybe, you know, the end result is just so fucking overboard. And he's culpable of murder,
right,
pretty much.
The phone call. And then here it says, these assholes, they always get away.
Yeah.
Well, see,
And Sam, and it says 2 minutes later, in the call, he's running. He's running where? He's running, and then the door indicates that he opened it. Yeah.
Yep.
So he did get out. Yep.
And he went and left his house to go get in the car and follow him.
70 yards from the rear door of the townhouse where his Martin was staying.
Yep, it was in the back.
See, I told you, you almost made it home.
Yeah.
I mean, you're that close to home, or maybe
Why don't you just keep going home? Keep running
Well,
home.
maybe you don't know what happened. You can't tell that George
Maybe
Zimmerman
he
didn't get out there and
well,
grab
think-
hold of him.
maybe-
He grabbed
you
hold
know,
of somebody's hoodie.
We don't know.
You're not going to leave marks on him.
That
Well,
dude
plus-
looks like he could probably run pretty fast. So
Plus,
he
now
outruns
think
Zimmerman.
about it. Think about it like this. Maybe he was afraid of him following him home. He was trying to see how far this guy was going to follow him.
Maybe he didn't want him to chase him all the way home.
Maybe don't know.
Maybe Martin ran up ahead, turned around, and waited for him.
We don't know.
We don't know.
I do know this. They're
George
trying to
Zimmerman is
blame.
guilty of murder.
Have you heard George
That is a
Zimmerman's
murder.
lawyers trying to blame it on marijuana?
First.
Yeah.
They tried to. Do you know that his lawyer
Sorry.
tried to blame it on marijuana? That Trayvon was smoking weed. And
Oh, yeah,
go
yeah.
and beat him.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
They said he looks high. That's what it
Bullshit.
said in here.
The weed made him go get the iced tea and Skittles. That's all that did. That didn't make you don't. Weed does not make you go crazy like that. I ain't never seen it ever. And believe me, people, I have
Dang,
seen it.
there's a whole full transcript of the Zimmerman call. Right here. We can go word from word,
But, you
just
know-
fast as Zimmerman.
The bottom line here is Trayvon, a young man, was murdered. George Zimmerman's an asshole. But the real people that are at fault, the real people that let us down, are the government and the laws and the rules that they have out there. Obviously, you listen to his 911 calls, the police didn't make it in time, people left. So here's a guy who's getting frustrated because the cops aren't doing their job and being there when they're supposed to be, and people's houses are getting broken into. And then here's another bad part of the government. They allow him to have the guns, and then he can do whatever he wants with them. And the other part is they have this stupid rule called stand your ground. The government and the laws are the ones that really cause
They're not
this whole
invoking
situation.
stand your ground on that case. They're just going with simple self-defense.
Well, whatever, even self-defense.
Because
all
they know
that.
they can't use stand your ground because he didn't stand his ground. He pursued. So
Right.
stand your ground is null and void. Which, to me, would also make self-defense null and void. We'll have to see. There's been a big deal about the jurors all being women, and 5 of them are mothers, I think. And that, I wouldn't think that would bode well for Mr.
No.
Zimmerman. But, you know, who knows? This Florida, they're the population that voted in those laws, so... and voted in the people that put them there. It's not like it's not like here in Michigan where we vote down something and the governor just goes ahead and does it anyway. Or maybe it is. I don't know.
What do you think the outcome's going to be on Monday or Tuesday, whenever it comes in?
I would like to see Murder 2 stick. I would expect most likely that it's going to be manslaughter. I would be very surprised if it was a not guilty verdict. I really would be. If they acquitted him of it, I would be surprised. And I don't think there's going to be any crazy ass mass riots. There's probably going to be protests and vigils and all that type of stuff. Hopefully they'll do it peacefully. Martin Luther King changed the world that way. You can too.
Yeah.
If for some reason,
Some of his stuff's been undone recently too. That's for sure.
yeah.
Yeah. It has.
So what do you think, Derek? Think he's going to be found guilty, innocent, hung the jury?
That could be a
I think he should be. I think he should be 2 count murder 2. Yeah. This is I keep thinking about it. It's just such a touchy thing that happened, and there's a whole period of time there that everybody sort of doesn't really know what happened, and
Well, I said all along he was
this
guilty. If you go back and watch our
Yeah.
early show when it first happened, I forget what was it, February?
Yeah, we'll have to find it.
February's. You could go back and watch the old episodes. I do talk about it. And I said he was guilty all the way back then.
Unfortunately, he's the only one living, so
Yeah, dead man tell no tale. So
People
he's
lost-
gotta be punished for it.
You know, when a family lost a son, and
Yeah.
just think of that. That's a whole generation,
Wiped out.
for stupidity.
Yeah.
I guess I would say people, if he's found innocent and he's free, I hope that people don't go crazy and riot. Instead, you should do, like Christopher said, we should come together and black, white, brown, green,
Yeah, we're all
whatever the hell
humans.
color you are, your
We're all
blood's
humans.
all red.
Yeah, we all bleed red, man.
So we should all just come
That's
together
right.
and be one and not fight each other, not attack each other.
That's what they want us to do. That's
Yeah.
what they want us to do.
They divide us and they separate us and they make us hate each other over stupid things, and we fall for it.
Yeah.
So
indoctrination from the cradle to the grave. That's
Yeah.
real.
It is real.
Watch Programming the Nation.
well, you heard it here.
Man.
We all hope he's guilty, and we all hope there's peace out there. No violence.
Stay
It doesn't
strong,
solve
everybody.
anything.
Stay strong, everybody.
And to George Zimmerman's family, truly sorry for your loss. As a father, I couldn't imagine it. Parents should never outlive their children. That's sad. But I guess
I hope justice is served, whatever it should be. I hope that the guilty are punished and justice is served in whichever way.
Hopefully the right way.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
Well,
usually not that way, but
I guess we'll find out. Maybe it could take a
we
while.
might
I
be
think
next
Monday
week with a
morning.
verdict. We might be able to
most
talk
likely.
about it next week. We'll see.
They don't meet on Sundays, do they?
No, they had the weekend. They're wherever they are.
They don't get, like, a
MSNBC
summer break?
website said that they reconvened today.
Yeah, they might make them, but they won't read a verdict until tomorrow. Court opens if they got one.
Monday.
Monday.
All right.
All right, well that's about it. Peace.
Peace.